Welcome to Growth Purposes Only podcast with me, your host, Princess Serafina. Join me Thursdays for all new episodes on all streaming platforms and our YouTube channel for Growth Purposes Only. No spaces. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I pray that whomever is supposed to receive this message, it reaches you and it uplifts you. Today we have a special guest, our first guest on the pod. We have Traffic.
Yes.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Traffic. I'm an artist of many sorts. I do music, I record, I'm an engineer, I'm a video editor, video creator. I'm also a visual artist. I paint, illustrate, draw. I'm into creating. That's basically my gig, I'm a creator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very multi-talented.
Yes, I would like to think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so today's topic, I wanted to get into like self-love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's truly important on this journey, the spiritual journey,
I feel you.
especially when you're trying to love another person.
Mm-hmm.
So first, before that, I do want to get into like, how did your walk with Christ go? Like, how did you get introduced into it?
Oh, it's a long
It's
story.
a long story. Can you make it like small?
Yeah, I'm so long-winded too.
Okay.
But I will do my best. So when I was growing up, I went to different churches, all different types of churches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ain't gonna say all different types, but mostly Christian churches. Some of my family is Catholic, some of my family is Baptist, and then like hanging out with certain friends, I go to their churches. But I never was like, it was just like the idea of going to church was just the thing to do. I didn't have an understanding.
Okay.
Even to the point, there was a point in time I went to a Catholic school. I was like middle school. And they have this thing called confirmation. It's like where you're confirming that this is the religion you're going to follow, like the Catholic religion.
Okay.
But my mind state then, even like, I think it was like in the 7th or 8th grade, that's when you're supposed to do it. So you like, right before you turn into a teenager.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of great.
So you got to make this decision,
Right.
like heavy decision what you're going to do. But back then I knew, like, I'm not ready to make that decision. Like I took the idea of God very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really know anything. I just felt like, let me pump the brakes. Whereas all my peers were like, I'm ready to do this, and they were just following along with what everybody else was doing. But it felt deeper to me, like, let me hold up. So I didn't. Years passed, like, I go into my 20s, and I pray all the time. But I didn't have a concept or an understanding, like, on a deeper level, on a biblical level.
Okay.
So I didn't have knowledge of, like, the book, you know what I mean? And then I met this woman I was dating at the time. She actually introduced me to, like, Christ and was like, you should start reading the Bible. And I'm like, huh? And she was like, just start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Just start there. And literally, like, from the first one, I was just, like, hooked. I was like, this is so good.
Right.
Then I go to the next book, and I'm like, this is even better. And then, like, Luke, and then John, I'm like, this is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I just kept reading. I got into Acts, and I was like, this is like a movie. Like, I can see it.
Yeah, it's like a little drama series.
So then I had, like, a falling away from that a little bit. There was some things that happened between me and the woman that introduced me to that kind of, like, led me astray from that. So some more years passed, and then I keep this really short. I met a group of people. I was living in LA at the time when all of that happened. I met a group of people. They were an entertainment group. And at the time, I was trying to get signed to different labels. Some things weren't working out. And so when I met this group of people, they were like, basically presented to me that they help young artists navigate their way through the industry because it's a snaky business. And so I started working. I like that idea. So, like, I'm like, cool, you know what I mean? And I know a little bit about the business from, like, trying to get signed to different labels, different managers and whatnot. So when I'm with them, as time passes, I come to find out that they're actually a ministry. So it's a Christian-based record label.
Oh, I mean, okay.
Yeah, so it was cool. Only thing is, as time passed and I got deeper in with them, it was kind of a cult. Yeah, so it turned out to be. So it was like a lot of controlling things, a lot of manipulation to the word. But with that being said, like, I had learned a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just take the good with the bad. Like, I had definitely learned a lot from dealing with that. To finish all this off, 'cause I
Okay.
told you it's like kind of a lot.
It's cool. You good.
So, so after, like, I had left this group of people or whatever, we were together probably like 2 years, tight. I'm talking about, we ended up living together. Like, I moved in with them, and we were like family. And like I said, things just wasn't fitting right in my heart with everything. I started to see everything for what it kind of was. When I left, basically communication with them people got cut off completely. I'm like, damn, 'cause we like family, so it hit me. It's like any relationship,
Right.
you know, when you break up, but it hit me like hard. And I'm not gonna lie, I was lost after that. Like, I didn't understand God, I didn't understand anything. I had a conversation with my pops, actually. I said, dude, I'm lost. Like, damn, I don't know who to believe in, or like what this concept of God, like, I can't grasp anything right now. I'm so lost. And he basically said to me, the thing that changed my whole outlook on it was, nobody can tell you how to believe in God. That's a personal relationship between you and him. And that just at that moment when he said it to me, it just hit so hard. And I'm like, yeah. And then I came back to God, and I'm like, shit, we rocking ever since. Like, yeah.
Hey, man, that's amazing. I like when you were talking about the experience with them. Like, it's almost like your discernment started kicking in. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, like once I just feel like when you open up to that, like when you open yourself up to God and like just the word and different things, you start to have like discernment. You start to look at people through a spiritual lens, and you start to see like the manipulation and all the
Yeah.
different things and the abuse, like the way they're trying to use the word to, like, you know, I don't know, grant certain things, or
Yeah.
what people do with their, you know what I mean, with their words. But like, that's amazing though.
Yeah.
Each experience, so that's great.
Really quick on that too, I just feel like that spirit of discernment is like always in us, since like
Yeah.
that, it's that innocence inside of us. Like, we have it since we're like kids. for
Yeah.
real. Then you become aware of it, like you were saying. I will say, with the whole discernment thing, when I was with that group of people, they were good with the manipulation, because they would use that type of language. You know, use your discernment and like listen to what I'm saying, because God is telling me to tell you to do
Right.
the X, Y, Z. So it's like it get confusing, because they like bend and twist everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you start going against your own discernment, because
Right. Because they abusing
Yeah.
it. And the whole, listen, like, I truly feel like, yes, God will use people, but, like, not in a way where they're telling you they're being used by God. Like, I just feel like
Yeah.
it's more natural. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't got to come into the room and just be like, God brought me here to you. Like, you would receive that, like, with your own discernment. Like, somebody sent her here to talk to me. You know what I mean? It don't have to be voiced. So that's a really good story. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I have like something similar.
I'm about to say, let me hear a little something.
So
Can I
my
hear a piece?
situation is a little similar. I grew up in church. Like, my mom and dad, I've been in church forever. I felt like because it was so much of a requirement, I kind of shied away from it. I didn't have like as much freedom in it, like just the obligation to be at church.
That makes sense.
And
yeah.
stuff like that. And then, but I also am a student all the time. Like, obviously I'm a teacher right now, but at that very young age, I just love learning. So it was just, for me, like, the study behind it was interesting. Like, I learned how to say all the Bible's books in order. Like, I was really good with taking tests, but like all of that is just who I am, like, as a person anyway.
Right.
So it was like the knowledge was cool, but like because it was so forced upon me, and I didn't feel like I had such a good role model that followed the like way of God, it just felt like a form of control, and I shied away from it. And I just remember like car rides going home from church. I used to always wonder if it was real. Like I always thought it wasn't like real, and I just really think a lot of that played a part into the people that were representing God.
That's good. At least you was asking honest questions.
Yeah.
Not being afraid to.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't honestly vocalize it, but those were my thoughts. So in the time,
Even
like,
that, yeah.
I mean, I know God recognized it, and sometimes He'll like prove Himself to us just so that He's real to us. But like at that age, I wasn't like as open to it as I probably should have been. But so I would go to church like everybody else on the holidays when, you know, you go to get dressed up, or like the big major events when I became an adult. And then I just shied away from it completely. I wasn't like reading my Bible at all. So this past October, I went through a breakup, and it was just like very, not traumatic, but it was very devastating for me because I had been through a lot. I had been single for like 7 years, and I got into my first like real relationship. So me thinking like, I done went through every test. I'm ready for this. And it still fell through. Like I kind of felt like hopeless in that situation. And it was like, I'm such a hopeless romantic. So it was just like, it was so devastating for me. And I really feel like God chose that opportunity to like communicate with me. And like, I went to the mall one day, I like going to the mall. The energy at the mall is always good. So it kind of was like helping bring up my spirits. And then I was approached by like 2 ladies that from a church, and they was like, you want to come to Bible study? And I was just like, in this moment of just like trying to bring myself better, I'm just like, all right, come on, let's do it. So I just took the number down. I didn't know if at the moment I truly had intentions of going, but I did just open myself to it. And she texted me, I texted her, I didn't go. And then the next day, I was just like, man, I'm going. And then I just went, and I just been there ever since. I got baptized in February.
Congratulations. Let's go.
So, like, now I'm on this, like, crazy walk. Like, you can't tell me nothing. I know God real. Like, we got our own relationship, like you said. And it just, like, everything makes sense to me now.
That's what's up.
I know. I'm so excited. Yeah. It's beautiful. Like, we so locked in. I'm so like when it comes to like the dating scene, I'm just dodging everybody. Like, cause once you get there, like to have your energy, everything restored, and you not like need anybody else, or not necessarily need them, but like when you feel fulfilled with just you and God, like I'm like to the point where I don't know if I want another individual to come in and like mess that up.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, so
even I'm saying is like just take your time.
Yeah, so like that's where I'm at. Like I'm not in no rush at all, but it ain't up to me anyway. But yeah, so that's my little backstory. So I want to talk about self-love because I think that's really, really important when you're walking with God, because like using your discernment and all of that plays a part on like how you love yourself, like what you allow to come into your life. Because obviously you don't want to turn away from people. Like God talks to sinners, so you can't, you know what I mean? You don't want to treat people a certain way because of that. But, like, how do you approach situations now that prioritize, like, your self-love first?
Okay, let me answer that first. You got me, like, I'm ready to ask you questions about other things. But in regards to that, but I would say I spent a great deal of time alone. I was in like a long time ago. I was in about a 5-year relationship, and I ain't gonna say I didn't date, but like I didn't enter into another like relationship for almost 10 years, like 9 years probably. So I took a long time away. When you said earlier like you hadn't been in a relationship for 7 years, I was gonna ask you about that, like about the self-love thing, like. I think during that time for me, without realizing it, is when I learned like self-love, like just even taking myself to the movies.
Yeah.
Just doing things alone, like learning to be alone. I know you have children. I don't have any children, but I know that during that time I was able to just take that time and just kind of like focus on myself and be selfish. So now I definitely, I was in a relationship recently as well, and it ended kind of around the same time as you. And I definitely learned from that self-boundaries and being very, very clear as to what my lifestyle is. If I was to meet somebody, you know, else, just being clear and upfront about my lifestyle, how I move, and what my intentions are, and being very transparent and having communication. But also, too, like with the self-love thing, right? A lot of people say self-love before you could love somebody else. But what's your thoughts on, instead of loving yourself, what about trusting yourself?
I think that comes with loving yourself. I think that when you love yourself, you trust yourself. Like, you trust your judgment. Like, I wouldn't do this to hurt myself because I love myself too much to put me in this predicament. So once I, like, developed this love for myself and I idolized, like, not necessarily, I don't want to say idolize because I feel like that's a bad word. But once I, like, put myself in a place where I am putting boundaries in place, I'm being upfront, like you're saying, transparent. Like, when you're doing things like that, like, you got to love yourself because you're not allowing anybody else to overstep or to change how you move, like you were saying. So I think at that point, and if people are upset, like, receptive of that and they want to be in your space and they respect that, then you can trust yourself because you got, maybe you did or you didn't get the response you wanted. Also, if people shy away, that's also another way to trust yourself because you put these in place and now the wrong people can't get through. So it's like, I just think, like, self-love is the ultimate key. God made us in his image, so why not love yourself? It's like saying you don't love God. So I think that's why it's important to have God first.
That's
and
good,
then, yeah. So, like, that's where I'm at with it.
You worded that good, yeah.
Yeah, people say I'm really good at articulating, but on my journey when I was single for that time, I bumped my head a lot. Like, I had just departed from my youngest daughter's dad. So, and I was just, like, single for 7 years. So I did, like, the whole mom thing. I thought I was doing, like, the wife thing, like, super early on in my life because I had kids pretty young. So, like, I was very closed off still. But then, like, once I became single, I was able to, like, venture out a lot and to see what was out there. And I was like, woo, everybody not like how it was, like, being in a relationship. Like, I would approach situations with my same personality, how I was in relationships, like, trying to be who I was to those people, and everybody not supposed to receive that part of you or have those, have that, like, certain level of intimacy with you. I learned that the hard way.
Trial and error, though.
Woo! It was too much trial. Like, at least that's how I felt in the moment. Like, I felt like, oh my God. But, like, because I've always had, like, that purity growing up in church, like, loving your neighbor like you love yourself, I never really, like, held, like, I didn't fight evil with that. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of went my own way and I just didn't allow access anymore. I could honestly say I didn't forgive either. I just kind of, like, moved on. And when certain people would try to, like, spin a block, I'm like, I'm good. But then it would be nothing, like, not, I forgive you, but you know what I mean? This is where you are with me or nothing. It just, like, no. So I was growing, but I was also, like, harboring, like, feelings inside of me, like anger towards these people instead of, like, releasing it. So it kind of made it harder for the next person and harder. I was obviously getting smarter or wiser, but, like, I wasn't using it the way I should have been.
Right.
Because if I was, I wouldn't have been, like, going as deep into every situation as I did. And it could have probably saved me a lot of
I'm glad you said that. Now that makes sense. Like you were saying, like, you were obviously getting smarter from the experience.
Right.
Sometimes we gain knowledge from experiences or wisdom and then, in a sense, don't realize it and don't utilize it.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel you. Like,
yeah, that's one of my favorite lines from my students. Like, you can be the smartest person in the world, but if you do not use that intelligence when those experiences resurface, then you have absolutely nothing. You're just as, I hate the word dumb, but you're just as someone who does lack knowledge because you're not using your knowledge. So my dad had told me that before. He was like, you have wisdom, but you don't use it. And I was just like, I never understood what he meant. And then now I'm like, wow, I just kept repeating cycles thinking it was the person and not myself. So, yeah, self-love is important.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it really is. I think If I would have utilized it early on, though, I probably would have been at this moment. But
I feel like I'm learning something.
What you learning?
Hearing like what you're saying. Yeah, you kind of putting pieces together. It's like it's clicking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's making sense. Nah, for real, it's making sense. I like that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like the reason why I asked you the thing about trusting yourself, I had a friend, we was having a conversation about relationships, and he had mentioned, like, he had said that, like, and it when he said it, it hit me different, like, 'cause I never heard nobody say that. Like, you gotta love yourself first. And he was like, he flipped it and just put the trust on there instead. He's like, you gotta trust yourself first.
Oh, okay.
And when he said it, it just hit me a certain way, like, it made me think of, like, do you trust yourself in these situations? Like, if you put yourself in a situation with somebody you might be weak to, do you trust yourself? Or do you trust your discernment? Do you trust what God is saying? You know, do you trust God? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like.
Yeah, and I also think it's like other pieces to the puzzle because me just growing up in the household I did, I had a lot of people-pleasing issues. So even if I had the discernment, I didn't want to lose certain individuals because of that people-pleasing nature. So sometimes I would endure way more than I should have. And even though, like, deep down inside I knew that it wasn't okay, but just not having a voice at a certain age is just like, it became normal for me not to speak up.
I don't know if you said it. You had a lot of brothers and sisters?
Nope. I'm the oldest of four girls.
4 girls. Okay.
In my household. My dad has other children, but like where I grew up. So I was the oldest, and I really didn't have much guidance. Like, my parents were just like making rules and enforcing them, but like not telling me why. And so my little inquisitive mind was like, curiosity was like, you about to get her. Like, you know what I mean? They got me, but
that's your intelligence. Like, you're seeking knowledge. You want to know why. You want to know a reason. Like, I'll do this, but like, let me know why.
Yeah. And I do that with my children now. So, like, when you say no, I think that in itself is bad. But when you say no with an explanation, it gives now another person the opportunity to either test that theory or just be like, okay. And I have 2 daughters. Well, I have 3 daughters, but 2 of them, I see it on my everyday. Like, my oldest, she is, okay, Mom, and that's that. My youngest, she's the one who got to bump her head every single time. I'm like, and I always be like, you just my kid that got to learn through experience, and that's okay. I'm not going to love you any less, but like, you going to fall a lot of times. I'm just very open and transparent with them because I didn't have that. That's and good. I think that's super important to have someone care enough to be able to like speak things into you or like just inform you about things that you probably wouldn't know or find out on your own type thing.
That sounds like like I said, I'm not a parent. I do have 11 nephews and nieces. My sister has 10 kids. I have a brother that has 1, but he lives in another state. But my sister's here, so I see my nephews and nieces all the time. When you talk about transparency, like, that's not, like, I love the idea of that, and I would like to do that. And I try to do that with my nephews and nieces on a level, like, with discernment. You know what I mean? But, like, I definitely try to be transparent with them when they ask questions, like, what's going on with this or that. Like, you know, I do try to be as transparent as possible, again, with discernment, depending on the age and, like, what their experience is. How do you feel about that, the transparency thing?
I'm 100 all the time. Like, I just feel like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Because if you don't open it to them, the school, somebody at school is going to open that can of worms. And I feel like you got to jump ahead of the influence. So it's like, I want to be the first conversation. So it's like, say it's about, I hate to mention it, drugs. You know what I mean? At least that conversation came from me first.
No, facts,
and then when someone else introduces it to them, that's not like their first level of knowledge about the topic. So I talk to my kids about whatever.
That's good.
There was a point in time where I used to smoke, and they used to be like, Mom, why you smoke? And I'm just like, you know, I work with kids all day. So, you know, and then I have to come home to my own kids. And sometimes I don't have the energy to be present with you guys because I've reached my max, my peak for the day. So, you know, this helps me calm down. So it would be funny moments. They'll be like, if they see me, like, I have a back porch, so I don't smoke in my house. But, like, when I did, they'd be like, I thought you were calm already. So it's so funny, like, how they
That's
just.
funny.
But I just feel like get ahead of it.
Our kids say stuff in certain ways to make you like really think like,
Right, because they're learning. So, and I just definitely feel like you can always learn from them. So it's like, again, it's like me and my girl's relationship is so fire. Like, I love it. Like, we're so transparent. We talk, we crack jokes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just open and honest. And sometimes I feel like they weaponize it because they're very blunt now because of how honest I am. And I have to remind them, like, you have to still be kind. You with your, like, honesty.
Yeah.
Because they will be like, but you said yes. But also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, know who you're talking to and how to talk to them.
Right. Be mindful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it definitely works for me. And I think it's helpful because I'm learning all the time. And every time I learn something, I just tell them.
Yeah.
And we just be growing together at home.
That's good.
Yeah, it's definitely a relationship I value so much.
It seemed like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We locked in. And they support me in everything that I do. They be like, you got this today. I also tutor. They come down. They tutor with me. My oldest, she gets straight A's. So she's like down there with me helping out. Just whatever, like getting dressed because we all like fashion. We all girls. Oh my God. But yeah, like everything I do is just like for them. I love them so much. But yeah, so and then also like just being a mom, self-love is so important. I never used to cry in front of my kids. My dad never cried in front of me. So I used to see crying as like a weakness.
Oh, okay.
So when I went through that breakup, I was just like going through it crying. And that for the first time, they was like really shocked at like what was happening to the point they didn't even know how to comfort me. And I was like, okay, I have to make this normal. And I just would just explain to them like, I'm going through a breakup. This is normal. You know what I mean? I'll be okay eventually.
That takes a lot of strength.
But you gotta like, I got girls.
No, I take a lot of strength in your end because I know for a fact, and I'm seeing it more and more with different people I've come to know recently, like just different relationships I've developed with, like, friends or whatever. I'm just understanding trauma can make people become very self-centered, selfish, and it's not on purpose.
Right.
They going through something and like they trying to heal, but we don't have the tools all the time to like do that. So people definitely like become like this, like with the energy thing. So that's got to be tough. Like you got your girls there and you trying to be there for them and you going through something traumatic and you're like trying to heal from it. So that's why I say that takes a lot of strength to like have the realization like, I got my kids here.
Yeah. Like when it first happened, I was like, I kind of sat in a car and dealt with it for like a hour of it. And then I'm like, dang, tomorrow I wake up. I wake up, my eyes poofy, swollen from crying. I'm just like, they're going to ask me what's wrong with my eyes. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just like, all right, I got to just tell them. And I think being open with them, they gave me the respect. They gave me the privacy that I needed and would just check on me. And I think ultimately, it was more rewarding than it was like kind of disappointing. Like they were like, what happened more so, but then they were understanding like, okay. So now I didn't have to like force myself into solitude. They just kind of gave it to me.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like, cool.
Yeah, how old are they?
So I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they big girls. So we just be going through it, and then we have real conversations. Like I have to talk to them about my dating life, and they'll be like, "Well, what happened?" I'm just like, certain things just happen. Like we don't know why certain things people come in your life seasonal, permanently. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And I just kind of teach them that because when they are approaching the ages of liking other people, and my oldest is not really into it. Like she's such an introvert, but like they're still gonna have crushes and people that they like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
And even just friendships, just understanding when friendships end. Like so. Because it's a relationship, it's a friendship.
Oh, that's good they got you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They straight. They good.
That's solid, yeah. So my nephews and nieces are kind of in the teenage range. And like around, like, I got a couple that's like, I got one that's 12, one that's 10, and one that's 8. But, like, I get kind of nervous. I think it's good to have, like, a big family, like all them kids, because they all learn from each other. Highly intelligent. I feel like when it's more than one, like they can really like throw ideas
Yeah.
at each other and learn from like the other people. How do you feel like about like if your older, you said she's more of an introvert, but your oldest one, she probably go through things that the youngest one don't even understand. Like how do they interact with that, like those experiences?
So like that's where I come in. Like I try to facilitate as much as I can
Mm-hmm.
when I am home and able to like we have our like group conversations. My oldest is very introverted, so like I'm like the person she talks to the most. And when she does, her conversations are more about friendships and how I remember one time she asked me like, is it weird, is something wrong with being upset if your friends have other friends? And I had to have a real talk like, yes, you're not supposed to be possessive. Love isn't possessive.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't say, you know what I mean? Like that's like a red flag to me
We
if
gotta
you're
talk about that.
possessive.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, so I had to really explain to her like, what is it that you feel like she only has to be your friend? And she was like in tears, and it was just like I had to realize for myself and like for other people, a lot of the situations or a lot of their preferences has everything to do with them. So what about you makes you feel like you had to have a person to yourself?
What was her answer?
I think she was too young at that moment. She was just like really, really in tears, and she just couldn't understand. But like now, we just talk about like what healthy relationships look like.
I got you.
So now she got like 4 friends, and they're all just a group of friends.
Okay.
So we kind of talk about her growth in that situation. Like, remember you only wanted that one friend to
That's
yourself?
fire, y'all
You know
even
what I
talk
mean?
about that.
Yeah. And that's why it's really, really good for me, like going through this journey that my kids, because me having kids young, it was like so frowned upon. But like now it's so fire to me because like every time I learn something, we can apply it to something and they fully understand it.
I think it's great. I definitely think it's great. Yeah.
So, but you wanted to talk about possession?
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it's funny. It's so funny you invited me on here to talk about this. It's something I've known for a while, and I've spoke about before. But it was like, when it comes to, at least my perception of unconditional love, I definitely know that there's other levels I have yet to discover. I know it's a lot that I still have to learn when it comes to love. But like the unconditional side, I had went through like briefly. Both of my parents was, addicted to. They had like drug addictions and early on. So like from an early age, I was aware of like what drugs were like. I understood what addiction was from early on. And the same thing, like what you were saying, like the people pleasing thing comes, especially people that grow up in them type of households.
Yeah.
The people pleasing thing comes in right away. The codependency.
Yep.
But when I moved to LA, I remember there was a few years I didn't talk to my parents at all. I didn't know if they was dead or alive. Like there was even a point where I wished that they was dead. So that I know it sounds like morbid and twisted, but there was a point in time in my life that I wished that just so I knew where they were. Because I was sad. I was like I ain't gonna say depressed. I ain't never really been a depressed person. But I mean, I guess if I was ever depressed in my life, it was then. Like I would spend many alone nights like crying, like, damn, where my like I know I'm all the way out here. I'm like 3,000 miles away. But like I'm trying, like, where are my parents? I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm not that tight with the fam, like to know how everybody moving. And eventually, I just hit a breaking point. Like I said, a lot of nights alone praying, and I just came to the conclusion, like, yo, they gonna be who they gonna be. They people here on earth doing the human experience, just like me, just like you, just like your kids. But even though those are my parents, I'm just connected with them because they're my parents. But at the end of the day, they're just humans on earth like me.
Yeah.
So if I could separate the two things and just accept that, I already went through the pain.
Right.
I already went through all the troubles, like growing up, like, I went through all the cries, like everything. I could just love you and accept you for what you are, like what you're going through, where you're at. I eventually got a hold of each of them. I had a separate conversation with each of them because they're not together or whatever. And I basically just told them, like, I know you probably ashamed and embarrassed, like you going out to get high. But that's what you're doing. And I'm not tripping on it. You going out to shoot up or you going out to smoke crack. Like, that's what you're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I just want you to know I love you. I'm here for you. Like, sometimes I just want to hear your voice. I just want to talk to you. Even if you geeked up, shit, just talk to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we could just talk. Just say what's up. Just a hey. Keep it pushing. Do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. That alone, I know for now, like, right now, like, and this is not to, like, stunt on nobody, but that is a big step. That's a lot of growth, especially for a younger person.
Yeah.
And I could say that now. So fast forward to now, like, seeing love, I know that love is not controlling or possessive, because if you are, like, controlling or possessive of a person, like, okay, I'll put it like this. This is a better way to put it. You know how sometimes it'd be like a dude, he get with a chick, and he, like, see the potential in her, or vice versa, a chick get with a dude, and she see the potential in that man, like, and she falls in love with this idea of what this man could be. Like, oh my God, he's so amazing. Like, he could be great. That's not it.
Right.
That is not it. That is controlling off rip. I know, I get it. We all have been there, like, oh my God, I just see all the potential he has.
Right.
He's so great. But, like, that's not love.
Right.
Because you fall in love with your idea of what he could be.
Exactly.
It's your idea of what he could be, how great he could be. That doesn't mean that's his greatness. God might have something completely different planned for him. And you fall in love with this idea you have in your head. That becomes controlling and possessive. Like, in my opinion, that becomes control. Just love the person for where they at, who they is. Like, I feel like that's like the foundation of where your love should be. Aside from loving yourself and everything, but when it comes to loving somebody else, just loving them for who they are without any expectation.
Yeah.
And then boundaries come into play with that too, though.
Right. I see it differently. I emphasize self-love. So regardless of where that person, I wholeheartedly believe you should love people for where they are, because, like you said, chasing potential is a drug, and you're projecting your idea of their greatness, like you said, onto them. But I feel like when you love yourself first, you already know how and what you want for yourself, and you won't have to chase potential in that manner. Like, it'll just be present. Like, this is what I want. I'm not saying you can't grow with your partner, because obviously you're going to grow. You know what I mean? Like, 100%. You should be stimulating one another. But, like, the starting point, like, what you want the soil of the relationship to be. I love how you brought that full circle. That was good. Like, because that's really ultimately what it's about. Like, if I love myself, I know what I want, at least coming into any situation. Like, some people have some parts of what you want. That's where the potential comes in. Like, if only you have this part, if only you have that part, and maybe I could be the contributor. But like you said, God has different plans for everybody's life. So that's why I truly believe that, like, if God is, like, the focus of both individual people's, like, lives, then only you will know, like, if you're meant to be with that partner, because everything will align. Yeah. Like, everything will truly align, and it'll be eased. It'll be soft. It won't have to be like a tug, back and forth. You're not trying to convince someone. Like, they already know, because God told them. And they would know how to deal with you, just like you would know how to deal with them. So I just like the whole saying of, like, waiting on God. And I just feel like when you wait on him, you truly know that whole potential part is gone. Right. Like, oh, you were made just for me type. Like that Made For Me song, Twin. So, like, you'll find, like, that person that you are meant to be with. And because I think when we look for people, or when we go out, that's when we find, like, bits and pieces of what we want in individuals. Yeah, I see that. Instead of just, like, allowing it to just align, like, naturally. I'm learning a lot from you today. I could tell your relationship with God is locked in. For real. After this conversation, I could really tell that you really follow on that. That's good. That's really good. It's hard to find, or hard to just see in different people, but you really tuned into that. You're not just a yes person. You really, you listen. Yeah, no, voice. Facts. I was just telling Watts, like, I'm a really good listener. Like, just like I said, growing up in church. Even to
your discernment.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
like
saying? Yeah.
I'm listening, and before it was because of that people pleasing fact that I would like ignore me. I would ignore me for them, and I realized they weren't ignoring themselves for me. I was always like the sad person at the end of every situation, so I had to like use my wisdom, start applying it. Like this right here looks
Yeah.
like last time. Let's get out of here. And I do it, you know, obviously from a place of love. It's not from a place of judgment. It's not from a place of like I'm better than you in any way. It's just I'm realizing our paths don't align,
Yeah.
and I wish you all the best. And however they take that is on them. I mean, I don't have any foul play or any bad wishes for anybody, so I just know what loving myself has gotten me, and I don't want anyone to come in and interrupt that.
Yeah.
So you have to literally add to that. And I think that's when I know that it's love. I'm not filling you up. You're not filling me up. I'm whole over here. You're whole over there. Now we can just grow.
Right.
The foundation is set.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you brought this whole conversation full circle with the self-love, and yes, that's good.
Thank you.
I'm glad I was able to like throw some things out there, and you was able to like show how self-love is in those situations. That's really good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me
Yeah,
today.
absolutely.
It was
Yeah.
such a pleasure.
Thank you.
No.
Like I said, I learned today. Today I was a student, y'all. Today I was a student. Yeah.
You were great. Yeah, and
Yeah.
your stories help like me. Like I said, I'm a really good listener, so I love hearing other people's testimonies and things that have brought them to God.
Yeah,
So
perspective.
yeah, it really helps.
You know what I'm saying?
It really, really helps. So thank you
Yeah,
for
perspective
sharing
is great.
today.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, you guys out there, remember, stay faithful to your healing journey. You are not alone. It's spiritual, not personal. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Growth Purposes Only.
Yeah.
Until next time, grow gracefully.